For tax in Nigeria by employees, self-employed individuals, and unincorporated entities. A step-by-step professional guide. Dear friend, recently all the subnational tax authorities comprising the 36 states and FCT have been issuing notices requesting employees, self-employed individuals, and unincorporated entities to file their returns with them on or before 31st March 2026. These notices presupposed that the concerned taxable individuals or unincorporated entities had registered for tax with them and have their tax ID. However, the actual situation may not be so. Consequently, we deemed it necessary to quickly educate employees, self-employed individuals, and unincorporated entities on the simplest method of registering for tax and obtaining their tax ID so that they can file their returns timely and effectively. This is also because no tax ID, no tax returns. This particular video is carefully crafted as a step-by-step process by which employees, self-employed individuals, and unincorporated entities can register for tax with the relevant state Internal Revenue Service, SIRS, or the Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service, FCTIRS, seamlessly and effectively. For everything which you need to know about registration for tax in Nigeria, particularly as it concerns employees, self-employed individuals, and unincorporated entities. Kindly watch the first part of this video titled How to Register for Tax in Nigeria by Employees, Self-Employed Individuals, and Unincorporated Entities, a comprehensive anatomy for effective compliance. This video in particular is specially prepared to walk you through the tax registration steps for individuals and non-individuals. You will get to know the golden rule of tax freedom, the golden rule of taxation of employees, self-employed individuals, and the unincorporated entities, the two categories of the tax authorities in Nigeria and their registrable persons, how and where to register for tax, and many more. So what do you have to do? Simple. Just follow us attentively to the end of this video. In addition, we will be releasing more videos, and to get the videos hot and fresh, kindly like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and share to as many people as possible so they can also benefit. Also, let us know what you think of the simple tax registration process. Thank you. So, what are you going to learn in this particular video? You're going to learn the golden rule of tax freedom, the golden rule of taxation of individuals and the unincorporated entities, the two types of tax authorities in Nigeria and their registrable persons, how and where to register for tax in Nigeria by individuals and unincorporated entities, the two broad groups of registrable individuals under the subnational tax authorities in Nigeria, the two broad groups of registrable individuals and their registration forms, how you can fill them, explanation of individual taxpayer registration form 001A, the step-by-step online process for registering for tax by individuals, the step-by-step offline process for registering for tax by individuals, explanation of non-individual taxpayer registration form 001B, the step-by-step online process for registering for tax by non-individuals, requirements for registration for tax in Nigeria for individuals and the unincorporated entities, timeline for registration for tax in Nigeria for individuals and the unincorporated entities, some tips on how to register for tax in Nigeria effectively and efficiently, list of the 22 interdependent compasses about tax corp and the authors. Now, the golden rule of tax freedom. Dear friend, do you want to be free from tax wahala? No disturbance of your sleep by a taxman, no knocking at your door by a tax lady, no receipt of long queries by your business from a tax controller, no receipt of unsolicited reminders or threats by your company, no blocking of your bank accounts by the tax chairman, no debiting of your bank account at the directive of a tax authority, no barging into you or your business by law enforcement officers, no forceful entry into your business premises by tax officers and law enforcement officers, no threat of imprisonment by a law court, no selling of your business and or its assets without a court order after the tax has become final and conclusive by the Nigerian Revenue Service. Dear friend, if your answer to the above compound question is a capital yes, then obey the golden rule of tax freedom. And you ask, what is this golden rule of tax freedom? And we tell you, it is called the 3 C's. And the 3 C's are comply, comply, and comply. The golden rule of taxation of individuals and the unincorporated entities in Nigeria. The golden rule of taxation of employees, self-employed individuals, and unincorporated entities in Nigeria is that an employee, a self-employed individual, and any other individual is taxed on their global income in the tax territory in Nigeria in which they have a principal place of residence on 1st January in a year of assessment, whilst an unincorporated entity is taxed on their global income in the tax authority, in the tax territory in Nigeria in which they have a principal place of business on 1st January in a year of assessment. The golden rule of taxation of employees, self-employed individuals, and unincorporated entities emphasizes principal place of residence for employees, self-employed individuals, and other individuals, and then principal place of business for unincorporated entities, including their global income. Please note that self-employed individuals include sole traders, market traders, sole entrepreneurs, partners, freelancers, consultants, contractors, suppliers, sellers, whilst unincorporated entities include business names, enterprises, partnerships, nano businesses, micro businesses, small businesses, and medium businesses. Here are the two types of tax authority in Nigeria and their registrable persons. The first is the National Tax Authority, which is called the Nigerian Revenue Service. And the second comprises the subnational tax authorities, which we call the State Internal Revenue Service and also Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service. Under the Nigerian Revenue Service, you have two categories of registered persons which are under Nigerian Revenue Service, and they include the first is incorporated companies. Now, what are incorporated companies that are under the Nigerian Revenue Service? They are limited liability companies, private or public liability companies, PLC, and corporations. So, the second group include corporate entities and others, and they include educational institutions, religious organizations, charitable organizations, cooperative societies, associations, clubs, non-resident employees, members of the armed forces, and members of the diplomatic corps. Under the subnational tax authorities. The registrable persons include, there are two categories, individuals and the non-individuals. Under individuals, you also have two classes. The first is employees. Employees here, we're talking of resident employees, not non-resident employees. Then the second class is self-employed individuals, which include sole traders, market traders, partners, freelancers, consultants, contractors, families, executors, trustees. All these people are under the individual category of the subnational tax authority. Then for non-individuals, which you also call unincorporated entities, they include business names, enterprises, sole proprietorships, partnerships, nano businesses, micro businesses, small businesses, and medium scale businesses. Now, how and where do you register for tax in Nigeria by individuals and unincorporated entities? Registration for tax in Nigeria is done at two broad levels. Please pay attention. First, you have to know your legal status and your relevant tax authority. Thereafter, you will then visit your tax authority online or offline to register. The table below shows legal status of registrable persons and their relevant tax authorities. So there are three columns on this table. The first is legal status of registrable persons, and the second is your tax authority, and the third is the relevant tax to which you are liable to. So, for instance, the first group of people is incorporated corporate companies, including private and public limited liability companies, public liability companies PLC, and corporations. So, their tax authority is the Nigerian Revenue Service, while the Nigerian Revenue Service, while the tax to which they are liable to are company income tax, that's CIT, value added tax, that's VAT, and withholding tax, that is WHT. The next group of people are corporate entities such as educational institutions, religious bodies, charitable organizations, cooperative societies, friendly societies, trade unions, associations, clubs. These people are under the Nigerian Revenue Service and they are liable to VAT and withholding tax because they don't pay company income tax. The next group of people are federal and state government and their MDAs. So here, all the employees in federal and state government and their MDAs are under the Nigerian Revenue Service. So again, they don't pay company income tax, so they are liable to VAT, withholding tax, and PAYE. Another set of people are the members of the armed forces, the soldiers, the Air Force, the Navy. These people are also under the Nigerian Revenue Service and they don't pay company income tax, so they are liable to VAT, withholding tax, and PAYE. Another group is the members of the diplomatic corps, the missions, the foreign embassies. They are under the Nigerian Revenue Service, and again, they don't pay company income tax, so they are liable to pay withholding tax, VAT, and PAYE. The next group is non-resident taxable persons, those who are not resident in Nigeria, employees. They are under the Nigerian Revenue Service and they don't pay company income tax, so they are liable to pay VAT, withholding tax, and PAYE. Now we come to the subnationals. The first group of people under the subnationals are resident employees. So their taxing authority is the State Internal Revenue Service or Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service. And as an employee, all you have to pay is your payee. The next group is self-employed individuals such as sole traders, market traders, low-income earners, partners, freelancers, consultants, individual contractors, families, executors, and trustees. Again, they are under the subnational tax authority, that's the State Internal Revenue Service, and they are liable to pay personal income tax. The next group is the unincorporated entities such as business names, enterprises, sole proprietorships, partnerships, nano businesses, micro businesses, small businesses, and medium businesses. Again, they are under the subnational State Internal Revenue Service or Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service. They pay personal income tax and they pay for their employees. Now, the two broad groups of registrable individuals under the subnational tax authority, like we said before, you have them is either you are an individual or you are a non-individual. Individuals include resident employees, sole traders, market traders, partners, freelancers, consultants, contractors, families, executors, trustees. So if you are any of these, you are under the individual category. Then for non-individual category, which is also unincorporated entities, the taxable persons here or your taxable individuals include business names, enterprises, sole proprietorships, partnerships, nano businesses, micro businesses, small businesses, medium businesses. The two broad groups of registrable individuals and their relevant tax registration forms. So we look at the forms which any of these two individual groups we use to register for tax. The relevant state internal revenue service classifies registrable individuals into two groups. The first group is called the individual. The individual uses individual taxpayer registration form 001A, while the second group, the non-individual, uses non-individual taxpayer registration form 001B. We will see more on these forms. Individuals comprising employees self-employed individuals, expatriates, sole traders, market traders, partners, freelancers, and other individuals register for tax by completing they complete the tax registration form called Individual Taxpayer Registration Form 001A. See Appendix A. On the other hand, non-individuals, also called unincorporated entities, comprising business names, enterprises, partnerships, etc., register for tax by completing the tax registration form called Non-Individual Taxpayer Registration Form 001B. See Appendix B. Explanation of the Individual Taxpayer Registration Form 001A for registration of individuals to tax in Nigeria. Description. The Individual Taxpayer Registration Form 001A is the form which individuals fill to register for tax. So let us understand it first. The Individual Taxpayer Registration Form 001 is the tax registration form which every taxable individual under a relevant state internal revenue service or the Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service has to complete for the purpose of tax registration and issuance of a taxpayer identification number called tax ID. Enclosure here. This form is enclosed here for your quick study and understanding. You can download it from the website or portal of the Joint Revenue Board or any state internal revenue service, including the Federal Capital Internal Revenue Service. So we won't dwell so much on it. See Appendix A for individual taxpayer as enclosed in this video. Individuals are required to complete Form 001. So which are the individuals that are required to complete this particular form? The individuals required to complete Form 001A include first, resident employees, sole traders, market traders, partners, freelancers, consultants, contractors, families, individual executors, and individual trustees. Now, what is the content and section of this particular form 001A? There are 8 sections of the Individual Taxpayer Registration Form 001A, and they are: Section 1 is for personal details, your personal details. Section 2 is for individual category, whether you're an individual or non-individual. Section 3 is for residential address. Section 4 is for business employers details. Section 5 is for contact information. Section 6 is for identification information. Section 7 is for declaration. And Section 8 is for third-party declaration. This form is so explanatory and pretty simple to complete. Very easy. All you need is just to pay attention and fill in the information required, such as your full names, date of birth, state of origin, whether you are an employee or self-employed, expatriate, others, your residential address, name and address of your employer if you are in employment. Other information include your communication contact channels, such as phone numbers, email address, your identification information, such as your BVN and name, then your signature and date of completion and signing of the form. Now, the step-by-step online process for registering for tax by individuals in Nigeria. The individual, comprising employee and self-employed, can register for tax and obtain TIN number online or offline. The online process is a simple 9 or 10-step process depending on the route or method by which you choose to go. Method A is registering through the Joint Revenue Board, and the process here takes just 9 steps, very simple steps. Whilst the method B is going through the relevant State Internal Revenue Service or FCTIRS, and this takes 10 steps as shown below. The key difference, however, is that when you choose to use the route or method of SIRS or FCTIRS, at some point you will be directed to Joint Revenue Board portal or website. That's the additional 1 step. So this table shows you the methods. You have on the left, you have method A, on the right, you have method B. They are similar, they're almost the same thing, just that when you come to method B, and if you use method B, at some point you'll be redirected to go to method A. So let's just look at the 9 steps in method A. The first one is you visit the Joint Tax Board or the Joint Revenue Board portal or website. Step 2, it will bring out some options, 4 options in particular. TIN verification portal, access TIN registration system, registration for TIN non-individuals, registration for TIN individuals. Step 3, so you click on individual TIN registration since you are registering for individual. When you go to register for non-individual, you click that one. So we are dealing with registration for individual. So step 3, click on 4, which is individual TIN registration process. Then 4, enter all the mandatory personal and business details, such as your BVN, date of birth, first and last names for individuals. Then step 5, after inputting all mandatory information, if you already have a TIN, the same will pop up on the portal. If not, you will be directed to another page and more information will be requested to process the request. Step 6, for individual TIN request, the following mandatory information is required: your title, your gender, home and office address, email address, phone number. Now, step 7, upon completion, a request tax ID will be generated, which will require approval from any of the State Internal Revenue Services tax offices or FCTI tax office. Step 8, upon approval, the TIN will be generated and issued to the taxpayer by the tax office. Step 9, the last step. Similarly, the TIN certificate will be sent to the taxpayer's registered valid email address. It will be sent to your valid email address. So this is for when you use the Joint Revenue Board website or portal to register for your tax. But if you use the subnational, the State Internal Revenue Service or FCTIRS, like I said earlier, you will do the same thing, but only that when you start, at some point, it will now redirect you to the Joint Revenue Board portal. The step-by-step offline process for registering for tax by individuals in Nigeria. What we just discussed was the online. Now you have the offline. An individual comprising employee or self-employed individual can choose to register for tax in Nigeria offline, that's physically, by visiting the relevant State Internal Revenue Service or FCTR office nearest to them. You don't need to go far. Just look for the State Internal Revenue Service or FCTR closest to you, and you walk in and you get yourself registered for tax. The offline process is not different from the online process. It is a simple 4 broad step process by which you obtain and fill the individual taxpayer registration form 001A, which we had earlier discussed, for individual taxpayer as shown below. Step 1, there are 3 columns here: the serial number, description of step, and action. Step 1, visit the nearest State Internal Revenue Service or FCTIRS office. Ensure you go with photocopies of the following documents: a valid ID, BVN printout, a recent utility bill. Step 2, obtain and fill individual taxpayer registration form 001A. There are 8 sections, and they are personal details, individual category, essential address, business employers details, contact information, identification information, declaration, third party declaration. Step 3, submit the completed application form. An officer will enter your details on the JTB system, verify your documents. Step 4, generation and issuance of TIN certificate. The officer will generate your TIN, print the TIN certificate, and this can be done in some hours or as soon as possible. Explanation of the non-individual taxpayer registration form 001P for the registration of non-individuals to tax in Nigeria. Description: the non-individual taxpayer registration form 001P is the form which unincorporated entities fill to register for tax. So let us understand it first. The non-individual taxpayer registration form 001P is the tax registration form which every taxable non-individual under a relevant State Internal Revenue Service or Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service (FCTIRS) has to complete for the purpose of tax registration and issuance of a taxpayer identification number, which we call tax ID. Enclosure. This form is enclosed here for your quick study and understanding. You can download it from the website portal of Joint Revenue Board or any state internal revenue service, including FCTIRS. So we won't dwell so much on it, we won't waste so much time on it. So, but please see Appendix B for a copy of this particular form. Non-individuals required to complete Form 001B. So which are the non-individuals which are required to complete Form 001B? They include business names, enterprise, enterprises, sole proprietorships, partnerships, non-businesses, nano businesses, the very small businesses, micro businesses, small businesses, medium businesses. Contents and sections of Form 001B. There are 9 sections of the non-individual taxpayer registration Form 001B, and they are: 1. Section 1 is organization category. Section 2 is organization details. Section 3 is head office address. Section 4 is contact information. Section 5 is identification information. Section 6 is branch office addresses. Section 7 is previous tax presentation information. Section 8 is declaration. Section 9 is contact person. Like Form 001A, Form 001B is self-explanatory and pretty simple to complete. All you need is just to pay attention and fill in the information required, such as the organization category to which your unincorporated entity belongs, full name of the entity, addresses, your communication contact channels, such as phone numbers, email address. Also, you need your RC, BV number, BN number of the entity, the BVN of the director, then your signature and date of completion and signing of the form. Pretty simple for you to fill. The step-by-step online process for registering for tax by non-individuals in Nigeria. The unincorporated entity, which comprises business names, enterprise, sole proprietorship, etc., can register for tax and obtain TIN online or offline. That's physically. The online process is a simple 9 or 10-step process, depending on the route or method by which you choose to go. Method A is registering through the Joint Revenue Board, and the process here takes just 9 steps. Very simple steps. Whilst method B is going through the relevant State Internal Revenue Service or FCTIRS, and this takes 10 steps as shown below. The key difference is that when you choose to use the route or method of SIRS of revenue, at some point you will be redirected to the Joint Revenue Board portal or website. So here you have 2 tables. You have two main columns. That's method A, method B, just like you have in the individual. This is non-individual, remember. So for when you go through the Joint Revenue Board, you just have 9 steps. If you go through the State Internal Revenue Service, FCTIRS, you have 10 steps. And like we said, the only difference is that if you use the subnational, at some point you will be directed to use the Joint Revenue Board website. So quickly, we'll just show you the steps in using the Joint Revenue Board step. Step 1, visit the Joint Revenue Board website or portal. 2, it will come up with 4 options for you: TIN verification portal, access TIN registration system, register for TIN non-individuals, or register for TIN individuals. So step 3, what do you have to do? Click on, since you are registered for non-individual, for business name or all that, business name, enterprises, partnership, you click on non-individual TIN registration. Then 4, enter all the mandatory business personal details, such as the RC number of the enterprise or the business name number of the non-individual, then the BVN of director. After inputting all mandatory information, if you already have a TIN, the same will pop up on the portal. If not, you will be directed to another page and more information will be requested to process the request. 6, for non-individual TIN request, the following mandatory information is required: RC slash business number, IT number, office address, email address, phone numbers. 7, that's step 7. Upon completion, a request tax ID will be generated which will require approval from any of the State Internal Revenue Service or FCTIRS tax offices. Step 8, upon approval, the TIN will be generated and issued to the taxpayer by the tax office. Step 9, similarly, the TIN certificate will be sent to the taxpayer's registered valid email address. And here ends the registration. But if you are using the State Internal Revenue Service or FCTIRS, you will require 10 steps. Requirements for registering for tax in Nigeria. The documents and other information required for registration for tax and obtaining a tax ID by an employee, self-employed individual, other individuals, and unincorporated entities are clearly stated on the two taxpayer registration forms, 001A and 001B, which we have shown here. So you don't need any other information. All you need to do is to look at what is stated on each of the forms. Timeline for registration for tax in Nigeria. Here we have 2 columns. Legal status of registrable individual or non-individual. Timeline for registration. You have to know your legal status, and once you know your legal status, then you can now determine when, you can now find out, verify when you are supposed to register. So if your legal status is you are an employee in Nigeria, then you are supposed to register at the date of commencement of employment. Immediately you commence employment, you are supposed to register. That's for resident employees. For self-employed individuals, such as sole traders, market traders, partners, freelancer, contract, you are supposed to register immediately you start business. Immediately you start business, you register with the relevant tax authority. If you are unincorporated entities such as business names or enterprises, once you commence business, and better still for you, once you register, please, once you are incorporated or once you are registered by CAC, we advise that you register with the tax authority immediately. Some tips on how to register effectively and efficiently for tax in Nigeria. We don't want you to pay penalties because there are penalties for untimely registration and incorrect registration, and this is part of what we have discussed in the other video that shows the anatomy of registration. So please make sure you watch that video. You will see the consequences, the penalties, the offenses involved in non-registration. So, but to avoid to have better registration effectively and efficiently, please do the following. First, know your tax law well. Register timely and correctly. Avoid offenses. Know your tax law that relates to registration of registrable persons. Know your registrable legal status, such as individual or non-individual. Know your relevant tax authority. It could be Lagos State, it could be FCT Abuja, or it could be Kano Internal Revenue Service, it could be Enugu, it could be River State. So please know your relevant tax authority. Register and be very proactive. Pay close attention and complete the tax forms correctly. Yes, complete the tax forms correctly. If you have a problem, please ask. Get clarification. Clearly understand the law, its requirements, methodologies, and timelines. Plan all year round, not just at tax time. Most importantly, consult and stay with Tax Corp for all your tax matters. Like we said, please watch the other video where we dissected what registration for tax is all about. This is purely a step-by-step approach for those who want to register now. Here you have the list of the 22 interdependent compasses we have always been saying. So you look at the list and choose the tax subject that you want. Just look for the video and you watch it and your problem is solved. And please, should you have any tax subject that you need us to do a video on or that you don't clearly understand, kindly let us know. Just drop your comments in the comment section. And we really want to hear more from you. This is supposed to be an interactive system. It's not just a lecture, but we want to get feedback from you as well. Just go to our comment section and give us the feedback. And apart from that, you have our other channels which you can use. About TaskUp and the principal consultant. TaskUp is a Nigerian tax consultancy firm which specializes in tax matters. Prince Chid, FCA, FCTIR, MBA, is a principal consultant. Prince Chid is a licensed fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN, and the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, CITN. TaxCorp and Prince Chid have provided tax services to numerous individuals and corporate bodies in both the public and private sectors, locally and internationally, since 1990, over 3 decades. The beneficiaries include the Nigerian Revenue Service, formerly the Federal Revenue Service, FRS, Revenue Mobilization Allocation Fiscal Commission, RAMFAC, state internal revenue services like Lagos State, Kano, Enugu, Abia, and so many, including Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service, FCTIRS, and many private companies and individuals. Thank you so much. Here our channels you can use to contact us, and please make sure you comply and register timely and correctly. Thank you.